My name's Steve Pearce. I have the unlikely title of Vice President Business Innovation. I think someone thought that would make me young and trendy, so I'll let you be the judge of that. But mission impossible, I would have said. But interestingly, I do know a few people in the room, but I'm really delighted to say that I don't know that many, which, considering I ran the UK business for many years, is quite a surprise. I used to come and speak at these things and know just about everybody in the room. There are a few old salts of the industry that I recognise around the room, but what's really fantastic is this is a new partner relationship building day. It's a recruitment day. It's to introduce relatively new organisations who've not dealt significantly with Arrow over the years to our organisation. So from my point of view, not knowing people in the room is a really good thing. So thank you for coming. We've got, I think, an interesting agenda, very well supported by some great vendors, and hopefully you'll get some very good takeaways from it. What I would like to do is just use 2 slides to set the scene and just give you some food for thought about how to use today. So my job for the last year has been at an EMEA level, helping our regional businesses to make the transition from traditional high-end value-added distributor selling products through the corporate reselling channel to make the transition towards the new world of reselling, distributing cloud services. Trying to understand what the composition of the channel is, understanding how to engage with this new world, working back from the end user through the channel, and also understanding what our vendors are doing. And I can tell you it's been quite complex because literally over the last couple of years, nobody has really understood what this new channel is all about. And we've had a bizarre situation where we've seen the emergence of completely new partners, many of you in this room, establishing themselves in a market that was previously dominated by a top 20 list of key resellers who for years had been the sort of primary route for vendors to sell products. But this is all changing now, so we as Arrow have had to look at the market and determine who are the partners of the future, how will they be structured, and what is our value proposition. So with a bit of support from a few people, you can't miss Daniel at the back in the orange shirt. I asked him to stay at the back because his shirt is so bright that it was going to bother me. But Daniel from Compare the Cloud Night had lots of debates, and I believe, this is my honest view after 30 odd years in the industry, this is the way you should be thinking about your positioning using. And I just want to quickly explain this. It's a little bit black and white in its thinking, but I do want you to just work with me on this, because today, if you understand this and why we believe this is the model for the new channel, it will help you get the best from it. So very quickly, we absolutely accept now that the end user wants off-premise cloud services. In my opinion, the first stage is a move towards hybrid. I think many people in the medium to high-end enterprise space are still wedded to a private infrastructure of some description, but they are, in our opinion, selectively outsourcing and choosing to go off-site, off-prem for a variety of their requirements, either totally or partially. But in my opinion, the first wave is the hybrid proposition. What we see emerging is a new cloud service channel. So we're not talking about the product channel today, which used to be vendors to distributor to reseller to end user. This is the channel for selling those off-premise services. And what we see emerging are a mix of new types of partners. Resellers evolving to offer cloud, either building or reselling cloud services. Pure managed service providers, cloud service providers who are building infrastructure specifically to take the customer off-site. And then, of course, the ever-present, very large systems integrators and telcos at the top end of the market. In my opinion, most people in this room should be considering their position here and the implications, because I have a very strongly held view that the vast majorities of MSPs have been a little bit confused about the positioning, but in my opinion, you are largely, fundamentally, end-user selling organisations looking to build contractual bases with medium to high-end end-user customers. I'll talk about exceptions to that in a second, but in principle, our positioning and view of the service provider community and the emerging cloud reseller community is it's a channel to the end user. And the currency for you people in this room is those contracts. The more end users you have, the more market share you have, the more interest the rest of the channel has in you. The complication of that is There are lots of vendors out there wanting to bring you products to use to build, products to resell, services to resell. And this is maturing rapidly with all of the big players now stepping up to the plate with what I describe as mother cloud services. So some service providers have done very well selling kind of basic hosting up until now. But there's no doubt that with big plays like ECS, with Microsoft Azure, with IBM coming forward with software, what we have now is the emergence of the big boys seeing this is a maturing market. And that's important because that validates the market we're in. But the issue for you guys is how to work with that situation and not view it as competition, how to leverage the resources and the enormous brands and not run up against it, how to capitalize on that. And the challenge for these guys is to find a channel to market, because this channel needs access to the end user. And who you're going to call. And in my opinion, who you're going to call is the good old distributor, who for years has always sat in this middle ground. That's our job, we're a middleman. We translate propositions from multiple vendors and we package those into propositions for partners to take advantage of. We help our vendor partners build channels. We help our partners make sense of what's on offer and provide a distribution value wrapper. So today, Denise is going to talk about our cloud service provider value program, the things that we can bring to you, not least of which using fabulous facilities like this to develop your business. And Scott is going to talk about some specific tools we've created to enable you to sell. So a large part of the discussion is our positioning to sit behind you, to provide lots of things to help you do this, not to interfere with that, but to support you. And for our vendors to give them a way of talking to you and introducing themselves. The one exception I'll say is, I know there's a couple of people in the room, there are some service providers who in fact can and would like to sit here. But my only caveat would be is that if you want to sit here and you want to sell through the reseller community, you have to think like a vendor. You have to have a programmatic approach, you have to put some skin in the game, and you have to create a program to do it and differentiate, because your challenge is, if you build a field of dreams, people historically do not come. So it's perfectly feasible to be here or possibly both. But you have to have a differentiated strategy. So I'd like you to think in terms of where you sit, and when we talk about our value, how we can get behind you. And if you happen to be on this side of the fence, we'd like you to understand today how we can connect you, the vendor community, the originator community, with the channel. And that's all we want to do, is be in the middle. To be in the middle, we've got to deliver some value, because otherwise, why would you want to have us in the loop? Why would you want to sacrifice that margin? And our model is very simple, and Scott and Denise will pick up on this. We want, as we've always done, is to bring a range of world-class technologies and solutions from the world's key vendors and originators and present them to the service provider community and the cloud reseller community with the option of using technologies to build solutions or resell solutions, or in many cases both. And I think the interesting dynamic for most managed service providers now is that you do not necessarily have to build. I was Chief Operating Officer of InTechnology for many years, now Red-centric, and I can tell you the biggest challenge was the investment in the capital. It's not now absolutely necessary for you guys to continue to invest in data centers. In my opinion, the managed service providers of the future will become manage the services providers, leveraging your infrastructure, your skills, your NOCs, your support mechanisms to make sense of all these varied things. So what we want to do is offer a conduit at the back end to source, find and manage the hassle surrounding delivering these solutions. Whether you choose to build or resell, we don't care. We'll advise and we'll give some input. So the premise of today is very much about introducing some world-class vendors, talking about our value proposition and talking about some specific tools that will allow you to build or resell, but most importantly, be very effective in securing the end user. Because the more cost and hassle we can take out of your business, the more you can invest in sales. which in my opinion is the lifeblood of the service provider of the future.